Right, we are back. So we move away from the employee experience and move slightly across to the candidate experience. And naturally, you'll agree that the candidate experience is an extremely important element for all businesses, as this really has so many advantageous effects on various aspects of the business processes. You'll certainly agree. So, but the thing is, now it's time, you'll hear in a very, very short while, it's time to really shake things up, okay? It's time to really change that story, change the narrative, and start to think differently about the candidate experience and ways to design it, to utilize it to its fullest potential, and in turn, really achieve those strong results, strong success, and strong outcomes as well, that we're all naturally, whoever we are, wherever we're working, we all want to achieve this, certainly in the companies we're working for. And the man that's going to do that for us right now, he's going to share with us his insights and his perspective, the founder of Five Studio, Mr. Steve Usher. Steve, are you there? Yes, you are.
I am indeed. Greetings
Hello,
from Stockholm in Sweden.
Wonderful. Stockholm in Sweden. Fantastic. So I've given a little bit of indication of what it's all about for our viewers right now. I'm going to move away, leave it up to you. Remember, towards the end, hopefully we'll get some questions. People that are curious, want to know more about what you're doing, they'll put a question in, and then I'll come back and I'll ask that question directly to you. Okay?
Fantastic.
Right.
Well, hopefully this screen share will work. Let's get cracking and
hopefully take it away,
let's
Steve.
go. Okay, let's go. Okay. Move this over. Okay, everybody. So I hope you can see this okay. Let's just slideshow. Wonderful. So I hope you can all see that okay. Let me just, hope you can see that okay. So hi, everybody. My name's Steve Usher. I am the founder of Five Studio, as introduced. And today I'm going to be sharing or talking about these two words, okay, candidate experience. And I think what's really interesting right now is the narrative that we and the words and the things that we associate candidate experience to. When we think about, if I asked you the question, what does candidate experience mean to you? Or when we've engaged with our clients or we run workshops, we always hear similar things like the timely recruitment process, easy application flow, giving feedback, actually being able to connect with hiring managers and get the feedback and convey it over to candidates. And that's all fine. But for me, that's very much still kind of hygiene factor stuff. And so today, what I just invite you to do and what I'm going to share with you today is I'm not going to share with you any case studies. I'm not going to share with you any of that kind of work today in this particular keynote. I just want to invite you to think differently. And I'm going to showcase some models to hopefully just get you thinking differently, particularly about this word, which is experience. And experiences are a really powerful opportunity, particularly now we're in this really tough talent market, to really differentiate and stand out in this competitive landscape. And then also, I'm going to invite you, come out of your TA bubble or HR bubble today. We've been in this COVID bubble, working your kind of job bubble, your team bubble, your business bubble. And for me, I spend quite a bit of my time just looking and researching and finding learnings outside of bubbles, our own little bubbles, and recontextualize that learning and bring it back into your own environment. So I'm going to be sharing with you just some inspiration around that today, to hopefully then you can then recontextualize into your own business and ways of working. So let's just take a quick step back for a second. So let's talk about 2020. And 2020 for me was a really interesting one when we talk about candidate experience, like what happened out there. And I think for me, this is when I saw this picture, I thought it was a really amazing representation of a kind of hiring funnel, and what was happening with the plethora of applications that we were seeing, where, unfortunately, talent acquisition teams were under a lot more stress. There was high volume of applications. Even stories of 500, 600, 700 applications for one role, which is just incredible. And what that meant was employer brands and things like candidate experience became under a huge amount of pressure. Biggest stress test for me in 2020 around candidate experience. And the words I kind of used around 2020 around candidate experience was I think it was a bit of a car crash, particularly with candidates sharing so much of their frustrations online, particularly on LinkedIn or Glassdoor. And also you've got the Reddit page, reddit.com/recruiting hell. Highly recommend having a look in there to showcase some stories of just how impactful it was having on people's emotion in particular. And then we flip to kind of 2021, where we've now moved into a completely different narrative, where we've got this kind of element of scarcity. So now it's like, where on earth has all the talent just gone? Where on earth has all of these kind of candidates that we were seeing last year suddenly evaporate? And now I genuinely heard this the other week that even in-house recruiters are being labeled or called unicorns. Never in my day did I ever think I would hear in-house recruiters being called unicorns. And we're just completely in this thing. This word that I associate to 2021 is scarcity. And what's kind of happened out there as well, from a candidate perception perspective, is they are literally getting much harder to engage with and also convince. Candidates are becoming more discerning. They're obviously getting multiple contacts from so many recruiters. Now we're obviously in a very candidate-driven market. And so how we engage and convince, particularly through experiences, is really, really crucial. And let's flip our perception to being a candidate right now. And I think in the main, if we look at kind of the recruiting market, when candidates are engaged in the market, what are they seeing? What kind of recruitment processes or hiring processes are they seeing? And I think right now it's quite an ocean of ordinary, which for me presents huge opportunities to really kind of differentiate. And the reason why we kind of see that is hiring, we tend to think of it as a linear left to right kind of, and it's kind of underpinned by ATS workflows, from kind of application to, sifting through to first, second, third offer, accept, etc., into pre-board and onboard. And we do think of it perhaps too much as of a process, where just now we need to start thinking about this more from what is an experience. How can we stage an experience that's going to differentiate us in the marketplace? And one of those things for me, experiences is like a lens. So this isn't about reinventing the wheel here. You're going to have your people, you're going to have your process, you're going to have your technology. This is more about enabling you and giving you an extra lens to look at your hiring process as it is today. So I invite you, lift this experience lens up to your hiring process. Like, what do you see? Like, do you see things that are serving you well, or do you see things that aren't serving you well? And don't forget as well, from a lens point of view, we also have multiple stakeholders, and we have different lenses of people who actually see the same hiring process. Of course, hiring managers have their own experience, recruiters have their own experience, candidates ultimately an outcome have their own experience. And if you use different interviewers, maybe some of your team members, they also share that journey. And if there's one hint I would give you today, the biggest thing this year, and probably in last year as well, was the relationship between those top two. The lowest hanging fruit to deliver a better candidate experience, just on hygiene factor stuff right now for me, and I see this very symptomatic in the industry, is that recruiter and hiring manager relationship. Number of challenges, I could do a whole new keynote just on that, but for me, that is really, really important. And of course, when you do kind of get the lens, and obviously as an experienced designer, I have that experience lens. So when I look at the world, I'm always seeing experiences. I mean, they're everywhere around you. And I just think bringing your attention to that and lifting up that experience lens will just open up a whole new world for you. And I think that then brings us into where do we go with this? Are these experiences default, and are they just popping away, serving you well or not particularly well? Or if they're well, how can you do it better? But then also, how can you intentionally design these experiences? So let's get into the method somewhat. Some of you may have heard of this already. It's a super popular book, but I think still in HR functions and also in talent acquisition functions, I still think we have got some work to go around embracing and engaging, working within the experience economy itself. But before I just delve into the core element, I just want to share something with you, which I came across very recently, which I think is fantastic. So I just want us to think, this is from the World Experience Organization. This was actually created earlier this year by a gentleman called James Wallman. And this was basically, he created kind of two families, one being experiences in the economy. So when we're thinking about things such as healthcare, patient experience, you've got experiential marketing, you've obviously got customer experience, employee experience. Think about the experiences going on already in your economy or in your business, and how can you then elevate those into much more meaningful experiences and much more impactful experiences. And then there's the second family of experiences, which is the economy of experiences. And I think there is a tremendous amount of learning and opportunity in the future for us in HR to really use some of the tools and techniques that's being applied in this area. And this is about organizations who stage experiences, things like immersive theater, for an example, or theme parks are a plethora of learning around experience design. They are the masters of experience design. So one of the things also that's happening out there is experiential is giving way to immersive. So if we're talking about experiences today, particularly in the HR context or employee experience context, what's happening in the consumer side is that we are seeing immersive experiences. This is an example of Star Wars in Florida, Orlando. And this is honestly, this is actually like at the, I mean, if you're standing in the top right there, you're going to feel like you're in a spaceship. But this is about, as a customer and as a fan of Star Wars, you're actually immersing yourself into those stories and into those environments. And then, of course, we have the kind of the metaverse, obviously the latest announcements through Facebook with Meta, and it's kind of going all in on the metaverse. Roblox obviously is another one. And this is way advanced. So I don't want to get too far out of stuff today, but this is also just to mention this, that in the future, the opportunities, particularly in a much more diverse environment and a diverse set of employees, virtual and augmented, I think, are going to play a really big part in this. So let's get back onto the progression of economic value. So this is literally from the Experience Economy book, written in 1999. It's still unbelievably still relevant today as it was when it was written, and still adding value to the world for sure. And at the core of the book, or the core of the learning, is the progression of economic value. So I don't want to get too much into this, but effectively, I just want to draw your attention to the axis itself. So when you look on the left side, we have competitive position. So how undifferentiated versus differentiated. At the bottom, we have price, which is market price or premium. And on the right, which in my humble opinion is probably one of the most important from an empathic point of view, is how the needs of the customers. How relevant are you or irrelevant? And I'll just have a quick think for a moment from a candidate experience and what the experience that you're delivering or what you're delivering. Is it kind of from a competitive, is it undifferentiated and less relevant to customers, or is it much higher, and how much more designed and specific are you? So let's just kind of flip this for a second, and let's just take it into, let's recontextualize it into our world. So candidate experience. So we have on the left axis now, let's keep it as competitive position. At the bottom, let's relabel that as quality. And on the right side, let's look at it more relevant or less relevant to the needs of candidates. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to remove out the ones that are less important at this stage, just to label my point, is when we look at the two differences here between services, what we deliver, and the experiences in terms of what we stage as experiences. So how relevant or how aligned is your candidate experience, and how relevant is it to the needs of your candidate groups? So think about your different talent groups, your engineers, your full stack developers versus your sales versus your account management. How are those experiences or the services aligned into those needs? And more importantly, how competitive is it in that sea of ordinary hiring processes out there? And here's some kind of distinct differences between service and experience. It's the service is what you do. It is the nice, easy, and what is functionally required. And the experience is how you go about it. It's all about the experience design, just on a basic level. And then service is about interfacing. Where do you interface with your candidates or your talent groups or employees? And then also making it nice, easy, and convenient. Whereas experiences is about interacting. Where's the moments you need to show up as a business? How do you invoke memories? How do you make it personal? And when we talk about revealed over duration, this is the characteristic of an experience. Well, in my mind, a recruitment process is a perfect opportunity to reveal an experience over duration. One of the things from a service point of view, let's throw a load of text on a slide for you here, but this is what's happening in the market right now. We're finding ourselves in a situation where we have lots of technology, which is fantastic. I love tech as much as the next person, but this is for me about services. This is about making it quicker, easier, faster, more efficient. In some instances, spending less time with your candidates, which is fine, but allows you then to open up opportunities to spend more time elsewhere from an experience point of view. And also, I do have a small gripe with some of the vendors out there that, literally some of their selling elements around better candidate experience, etc. And in my mind, hopefully after today, you'll understand that, yes, it does to a certain degree, but in reality, it's a service. It has service characteristics, not experience characteristics. And the big one for today as well, if this is the biggest takeaway I'd love you to take today, is around time. And this is a really, really big one for me. So this is where this yellow dot, there's a big distinction, there's a flip that happens. So services are time well saved. So this is service design, and experiences is around time well spent, which is experience design. So this is about finding the places in your kind of talent acquisition journey or HR journey to identify these places where it is time well spent. And this for me is where, as a designer, as an experienced designer, I think for me is just hugely exciting, because this is about designing moments in time. And this time could be a minute, it could be 2 minutes, an hour, 30 minutes. And I think once you identify these time elements, is then start to inject these experiences into the time, is where I absolutely get excited. And then we also have this thing around, again, I could do a keynote just purely on this, but creating memorable experiences with stories. So when we look at kind of your candidate and hiring process and this journey and the journey that a candidate will follow or potential talent will follow, I think offers huge opportunities to inject stories and storytelling into that journey, similar to the kind of the revealed over duration and time, but then inject something that's personal and also creates this kind of memorable moments along the way. And stories are absolutely crucial to experiences. They are absolutely joined together for sure. So look, what next for you? If I gave you some advice for today. So I think first and foremost, you start to just think and shift your thinking into journeys. It's probably the quickest, easiest route to really starting to make some improvements in where you can start in a very simple way without having to change the whole world in one go, build the business case and utilize that to obviously create the movement inside your organization. But think in journeys, because they're going on inside of your company right now. As we're sitting here today, these journeys are happening. Like whether you want them to happen in the way they are or not, they are happening. And as I said earlier, whether they're serving you right or not right, well, that's to be discussed and obviously redesigned and reviewed. So, and again, these journeys are big and small. So again, you don't have to change the world here. You don't have to reapply your application, redesign application process, but you absolutely can look at it from finding these really kind of nuanced little moments in time to redesign. And of course, then inject this experience, like this little, as we've kind of got this confetti here, what's the little bit of confetti that you can just drop in that's really going to differentiate you in the market? And then we kind of have, if you think about journeys for a moment, just to kind of give you some prompts here, if we look at this kind of holistic journey of employee experience, and here we've got kind of hiring, start to think of it kind of high level, mid-level, and then super granular, and then start to kind of think about some of where the moments you want to influence start and a good starting point. So for example, is it things like this? Is it like your hiring manager? Is it a background check? Is it your ATS templates? ATS templates, while we're on that, by the way, has a lot to be desired. The words you express and share in those automated ATS templates set expectation. And I know this is just content, but it is super important, even down to this level of granularity, around how you can use those little interactions to really kind of build up the narrative and the story. And then we go down even further, where we can kind of get right into a window to the job. How can you create a window into the job? How can you create a rejected moment as an experience in itself? And of course, just to leave you with one example out there in the market, and this was actually taken from one of my podcast episodes called The Experienced Designers, where I had the amazing opportunity to meet Eunice Clemens-Tweedy, who is the global talent acquisition director at the Lego Group, who are probably the custodians of probably one of the biggest brands, or it is the biggest brands in the world. And there's this beautiful example here around creating this kind of personal moment in the offer accept stage. Where when she accepted the role, her future hiring manager or future manager sent her two things. The first thing was a 2-page handwritten personal note, and in there was sharing his excitement of her joining and the opportunity, what they're going to create together, and the road in which they're going to lay themselves and create together as a team. And as a tangible representation of that, he also sent her a Lego bus set. And she sat with her children and created this bus. And obviously this bus now sits in her home. And when she looks at it, is able to say, hey, this invokes a memory around this amazing moment in her hiring journey, and shares it very openly as a really poignant moment that is memorable. It creates the memory. So I think this was a really beautiful example of something that was really personal, a super idea around using your product, but also has this kind of representation and this meaning that sits behind it around they're going to go on this kind of journey together. Amazing.
Steve, I'm just going to come in there. Listen, really cool to really hear this journey that you've kind of shared with us right now, really getting us to think more about that word experience and really what it means from the different aspects, from the candidate's point of view, from the recruiter, and also the other elements in there as well. Also the word journey, looking at it as more of a journey. And I love that metaphor of injecting a bit of confetti to create an experience, so which we can all do, and we've all got that capability, and we can all do that as well. So really cool to listen to that. I'm afraid we're out of time.
Hey, no worries. Thank you for the opportunity. Very grateful.
So quick. Here's the thing, everybody listening, you're curious, you want to know more, you'd like to know more about what Steve's doing and his company. I'm sure he'll be happy for you to reach out to him over LinkedIn, start a conversation and see maybe potentially where you can collaborate. But for now, thank you so much, Steve, for your expertise, and number one, for your time as well. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
Wonderful. Right, what we'll do now is we'll go for a very, very short break, and then after that, you have the choice to choose. Remember, choosing one of 4 different case studies. You choose the one you want to go to. I'll be here on track A, so join you back here or any of the other 3 case studies in about 2 minutes' time.